I really hope, guys, really, like I talk about it with a lot of passion, as you can tell. I love this game, and although I don't have a lot of faith in Inkwell and Nexon North America, I really hope they can get this right and MapleStory Classic becomes a game that everybody's looking for, because there's so many players that have given up hope in the MMO genre in the past 2 decades, where nothing just seems right, nothing feels right. But I think MapleStory can bridge that gap and bring the players back. If they can do this right and just stop trying to monetize the crap out of the game and release a game where they're okay and they're happy with the basic monetization that existed in old school MapleStory, not be as greedy, you know. Obviously it's a company, they need money to run the game, money to have players work on the game, etc. So they need to monetize the game. But how is it that Tensia has a handful of people, I want to say a team of less than 20 people, that are able to reproduce this game and do more for the players while keeping the botters in check, while keeping the illegal program users in check, and release a bunch of updates every 2-3 weeks? How is it that they can do it and you have a huge company like Nexon NA that can't, and they need, in order to run the game, they need to monetize like cubing and gotchas and all this stuff? You know what I mean? I don't understand how that can be possible. You're gonna have to do a lot of convincing to get me to believe that it's justifiable to monetize that much, especially like really feels like I'm gambling, right? And I get this sense a lot when I play current modern MapleStory. Is like I'm looking at a screen, I'm really not playing the game, but I'm essentially just gambling. I'm just sitting there gambling, cubing, doing gotchas, and it just feels so dystopian. And I just can't help but feel that way when I go on YouTube and I see people, the only content that I see on YouTube of people playing MapleStory, the only ones that pop off and get decent amount of views is if they're doing cubing or they're doing gotchas. They're doing some element of gameplay that resembles gambling. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, man, that's dystopian as hell. I'm not even playing the game at that point. It's just like spending money to get the best stats in the game. And there's no sense of achievement because you didn't earn it. You just swiped your credit card to get that. Like, come on. At some point, people have to be honest with themselves and say, you're not playing a game, you're doing a slot machine. And just walk away from it. It's not a game, you know. I just don't think it's a game. It's not what an MMO should be. It's super predatory. They use a lot of colors, make it look all fancy and get people addicted really fast. And then the end game content is cubing and swiping your credit card. I'll pass on that 100%. In just case you're confused, the name of the server Old School MapleStory. Oh, gotcha. Okay. I'm playing Turtle WoW, which I think is a reimagination of classic era. Okay. Keep the whales on modern Maple, just give us good balance game. That's what I'm saying. And I think the only reason that modern MapleStory is able to continue its service is because of the whales. I 100% believe that, man. I think it's because you have giga whales that have a lot of money and they don't know what to do with their time. And, you know, it's fine, let them do that. But the thing is, when the content and the updates and the patches that roll out as the game progresses and ages gets centered around, the content is being rolled out with the whales as the centered focus, not your casual players that enjoy the game for the gaming experience, but these giga whales that will swipe $100 a day to get a bunch of cubes or whatever to re-roll their cubes and potentials, and you know, they're essentially gambling on MapleStory. That's what I think. You don't have any of that here in Maple Land, you know? You don't have that. And the game is fine, the game is healthy. They're still making money. the game just announced MapleStory or Mapleland 2.0 because they're doing so well, and they're gonna work with Nexon Korea to create a better version of Mapleland. And when I say better, I mean they're going to create Mapleland that emulates more of the in-game physics that we had back in the day. For instance, players noted that when you use rush, I don't know if it's called rush or charge, I really need to figure that out because I always say this. Fourth job warrior advancement skill, there's a skill called rush or charge where you can charge at an enemy, and players have noted and brought up to attention where there's a slight bug meaning it doesn't emulate the physics of how the skill acted back 20 years ago. And also in Aquarium, the swim physics, I didn't even notice. I really just play the game and I've never noticed, and I've been to Aqua Road multiple times. But apparently there's some slight differences with the swim mechanic in Aqua Road that players have noticed. And they're gonna fix that to make sure that it's a perfect emulation of how MapleStory was 20 years ago. Slight things like that, they're bringing it back. So Mapleland and the developers are called Tensia, are very well grounded, and they know what the players want and they know what they want. You know what I mean? They're not rolling out updates and patches to bring in cubing, to bring in gachas, to bring in predatory updates that really brings a frown upon your eye. It makes you, it makes you raise your eyebrow, like, what is this? Nobody wants that. They will literally get crucified by the public if they bring out anything like that. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. And I think Nexon NA, we need to treat them the same way. If they bring out cubing, essentially like the game's been out for 2 months and they're like, hey, we're bringing out gacha, we're bringing out cubing. Everybody quit the game, just leave. Teach them a lesson. Don't play the game. Nobody wants that. That's not the correct way. It's predatory. I feel like my intelligence is being tested. I feel like you think I'm dumb. You got me hooked by saying it's a MapleStory Classic, and you never talked about gacha or cubing in any of your trailers, in any of your statements that you made. Instead, you release it after 2 months or even a year. Eventually you release that. We need to be vocal about that stuff. Hey, we don't want that. Why would you ruin a perfectly well game that we enjoy, bringing in an element of gambling into the game? It was so stupid back in the day. I gotta say this too. 20 years ago, when they first brought out gacha, you know what they did? You were able to get endgame items that had better stats. Than the gacha items would have better stats than if you were to get it from Pink Bean, let's say. Like Pink Bean gave timeless and reverse items, right? 120 items. You could get that through a gacha and it would have better stats. How is that even fair? How does that even make sense, guys? How does that even make sense? Really think about that. In a grindy game like this, where you have to spend years to get to be able to accomplish the conquering Pink Bean, it took players years to get to level 180, 190. And these players go through so much, and they've invested so much into the game. Right? It's like it's really just super disrespectful to the old veteran players who have gave so much to the game, who've dumped so many hours and time into the game. And as a developer, you release a gacha, and this was Inkwell, by the way. This was Inkwell. Releases an idea into the game, and that says, you know what? Let's charge players $10 for 10 tickets, and they can do gambling. And you know how we're gonna get them? We're gonna give them an item that they normally couldn't get, but we're gonna give them timeless and reverse items that only the high level players have, and it's gonna be better. So you sit there and you really gotta ask, what's the point? At that point, everything shifts, right? what's the point of playing the game? A lot of people played the game for the sentiment of achievement, sentiment of accomplishment. There's a lot of fame that came with you being high level, a lot of respect. None of that. If you wore a level 120 claw or a timeless weapon, timeless spear, you had this element of respect that directly correlated into how much time you invested into the game. And with that one update, just a thoughtless, brain dead update, they completely washed that out. And it's so infuriating. It's so infuriating that they think they can do that and just really look at the players as a money bag that they can grab money from. Guys, if you can get the end game content items from a gacha from level 1, what's the point of playing the game? It's not an MMO. It essentially is telling you to spend money, and that's the whole point. Cubing is the same thing. What's the point of going to get the end game content item if you can have a level 100 item with the best potential lines? Oh, boss damage 40%, 3 lines. Now you got the best item in game by spending money. Spending money was the end game content. We should be infuriated by that. They make enough money. If Maple Land can make enough money with megaphones, with pets, and customization of the game that doesn't directly translate and overshadow the higher level players who are investing hours, if not, not hours, days, months, years into the game and keeping this game relevant, then at that point you're just playing the game. Someone who has a bigger wallet is gonna outshine you. Even talking about it, I get passionate and I get infuriated because it's so stupid that we allowed that to happen in modern MapleStory. And although and then what's more infuriating is people that defend it, right? People that defend it. Do you think I don't have enough money to spend $10 on gacha? That's not the point. Because some people make the argument, well, if you don't have money, then just don't play or just don't do it. It's for people with money. That's not the point. That is such a one-dimensional way of thinking and looking at the game. And why are you playing defense for a company that's going for your wallet and ruining the game? It just makes no sense to me. I remember being 12 years old, going to 7-Eleven to buy an NX gift card to buy gacha. Maple might be the first game to introduce gambling to kids, right? I mean, what is it? Counter-Strike also has gambling aspects too. All games have it. We're in that era where like almost all games have an aspect of gambling in it. My thing is, if you're gonna say MapleStory Classic, you shouldn't have it. You shouldn't have it. Let this game be an example where it can thrive without the aspect of gambling, predatory gambling. If you're gonna have gacha, have it for maybe cosmetics. I don't know, like items that doesn't intervene and interfere with the core gameplay, right? Maple Global just doesn't have a big fan base as KMS. In Korea, MapleStory, Sudden Attack, LOL, StarCraft are cultures. In NA, MapleStory is a niche. That's why they can't survive off megaphones, pets, and customization. I don't know. I kind of disagree because there's more population in North America. So you're gonna have the same amount of players, I think essentially, that play in NA as the player base in Maple Land. I think Maple Land, and I'm being pretty fair here, I want to say concurrent player base probably is around 10k, maybe a little less. I know a total accounts in Maple Land is a lot, but I think the concurrent players, if you look at concurrent players, I think you're gonna have essentially the same amount of people that play the game at the same time. So if they want to do more, then make it a subscription base. I will gladly pay $5 a month to play a game like Maple Land and have a game like Maple Land exist in North America, NA. And you know, for me, it's not that big of a deal. I'm making this argument for your guys' sake and my friends' sake. When I play MapleStory Classic, I'm bringing a whole bunch of new faces, a whole bunch of newbies that never played the game before, and for them to play the game and have an element of gambling in the game, and to tell them, yeah, you can just do gacha and you beat the game, bro. There you go, you beat the game. Just spend $10, get a gacha, you have 1% chance to get endgame item. Today we're just gonna gacha it up, boys. Everybody meet in Kerning City, make sure you bring $100. Let's go, we're gonna get the best item. That's a stupid gaming experience. Nobody wants to play that. You might as well just go to the casino at that point. It's real life. I can get some orange juice or Coke and, you know, look fresh. You know what I mean? Sorry guys, I get really passionate about this. I know I'm a little aggressive. Some guilds had their own website with all members. It's different culture. In NA, people are individualistic. In KMS, they're more I 100% agree. And I think we have to take it upon ourselves to change that. And you know, I'm trying to do my part to bring in more of introducing to the people in the West that MapleStory is a party-oriented game and it should be played party-centric wise, and you know, it's more fun when you play it that way. And hopefully, because people have had experience with how cash grabby Nexon can be, and I think a lot of people share my sentiment, and now that we're a bit older and you know, people just won't take up with that stuff. Gacha will be in Classic realistically. Nexon is too greedy. We'll see, man. If they bring in gacha and it was just purely like cosmetic items, right? Like level 10 sword that you can only get from gacha, or a slime hat, or I don't know. Items that are more customized, more aesthetics than actual have practicality and game breaking. If you're gonna bring like level 35 unique spear from gacha, I don't think that's too big of a deal, right? But if you're bringing, if you have a chance to obtain timeless or end game item with better stats than actually going there and conquering the boss to get those items, I'm going to turn the game off and I'm not going to play the game, because I know where that's going. I know what's happening with the game. I know if it's first gacha, then it'll be cubes, then it'll be some other type of their focus, because what that tells me is their focus is in the wrong space. Their headspace is in the wrong space to begin with. They're worried about making money off of us instead of giving us a good nostalgic experience in a game that we can all enjoy. So all it takes is for me to see, okay, they have gacha. Nope, I'm not playing it. Now, unless the gacha, obviously, like I said, brings in items that are more for aesthetics and not game-breaking items, then maybe, yeah, that's fine. But other than that, no. Orange juice and Coke, you know how to party. Of course, man. Of course. Orange juice, Coke. A little bit of chocolate, snacks, you know what I mean? Best time. I don't understand how people have fun with gacha. They're looking for instant gratification. Yeah, it's an instant gratification. I mean, it's an easy way to get a hit of dopamine, right? And I think it's a wrong approach when you're playing MapleStory. MapleStory, you really have to relax and be happy with the delayed gratification and the slow grind. And the hit of dopamine feels, trust me, 100 times more better when that's the case. When I get a loot from a monster after grinding for an hour, or when I finally reach level 70 on this bandit, I'm gonna be so happy. I'm gonna be so happy. If I want a quick fast hit of dopamine and a stream of dopamine, there's so many games out there that are equipped to do just that. And I think you can go look for that type of experience somewhere else. Modern MapleStory, League of Legends, Valorant, Arc Raiders, all these new games that are coming out, it's just non-stop dopamine rushes, right? And maybe after a couple of games, you just want your brain to relax and just sit down and chill. You know? Cosmetic items won't have the same appeal to 30 plus years old, which will be the majority of the nostalgic people. People in Mapleland are all over 32. The general age that make up the players of Mapleland are all around my age, if not older, 30 plus. And you see a lot of people that are dressing up their characters to portray a certain type of personality or a certain type of you know, they have a lot of character, right? Personality and character in their character. And they do that by dressing them up in certain ways. I mean, look at my friend Flink Flank here. I'm sure he's 30 something and he dressed up as like the Saja boys from K-pop Demon Hunters. What is he trying to portray? I don't know. You know, he's trying to portray something in his own way, and I think it's cool. There's so many other players that dress up their characters in certain ways to make sure the character is uniquely them. You know, and I think it's really cool to see. It's a good way to spend your money. It doesn't interfere with the core gameplay. It's an enhancement it's an enhancement of the existing framework of what this game is. It doesn't interfere with the gameplay. It's not game changing or game breaking. So I'm all about more customization for characters. And this is another thing that is a system that exists in the game, so you're not essentially botting, right? They don't want you to be AFK or use a certain type of illegal program to play the game. Base stompers, pink adventure capes, stormcaster gloves, brown work gloves. Yeah, gacha was dumb. I agree, because those items were endgame items. Exactly, man. Like, none of that exists in KMS and Maple. None of it. We wouldn't have it. We wouldn't take that. Oh my goodness. People would crucify the developer if they introduced a gacha and said, hey, it costs you even $1 to get a chance to get the best item in the game. You are going against the philosophy of what makes old school MapleStory great and why people are playing old school MapleStory. It's not about that dollar. It's that you are trying to test the waters of my intelligence and basically saying you're too smart, you're too dumb anyway to notice. It's only $1. You think I'm stupid? It's only $1. Yeah, I know it's only $1, but it's the start. You're opening a realm to where now you have justifiable, like you have an excuse to do something more outrageous. Oh, it's only $5. If you want the best game item, just spend $5. What are you, a broke boy? No, everybody has $5, okay? Everybody has $5. If you have internet connection and you're playing MapleStory, everybody has $5. That's not what this is about. It's you're changing the game that I love and that I fell in love with, and you're monetizing off of it in a way where it challenges and corrupts the philosophy of what an MMO is and what MapleStory is. You're challenging the original design and the reason why we play MapleStory. Korean people will not have that, and we shouldn't either. I don't think gacha is going to happen sooner. I will be hanging out to see how awful it gets, but I will dip once it gets to pay to winning. Yeah, me too. I'm not gonna play something that's blatantly in my face telling me to pay money to enjoy the game. I'm not gonna do that. The only reason why gacha became popular is because of FM. People started overcharging for scrolls and items. I think Maple Classic intention is quick money grab for those nostalgic players. Also, this grind is fast. Holy, yeah, I told you. You know, when you play in a party setting, obviously I'm using 2EX coupons that they're giving out for this event right now. I'm really capitalizing on it. Man, is it fast. But training in a party is just, you can't beat it, you know? Being in a party, playing the game where it's party centric and party oriented is unbeatable. it's a lot more faster than we can imagine. Especially people from the West who have never experienced something like this. Even without the 2EX coupons, I could probably grind here and get at least 40% to 50% EXP. Whereas if I was to solo grind here, I might get 15 to 20% if I'm lucky. So the difference is huge. It's huge. No more DK? No, I still have my DK. I'm just playing my bandit today. You know, I like to switch things up, keep it interesting and fun, you know? Plans for when Classic is released. My plan for Classic is when it's released, I want to. Oh, subs. When it's released, I'm going to play with my buddies. Whoever's interested. I've asked like 10 people. All of them said yes, but that was 2 months ago. So we'll see. I think I'll have a decent amount of people that are going to be new to the game. Come join me and play MapleStory Classic. And I'm going to have a good time. That's the plan. And as for class, I want to play crossbowman. But I'm going to... You know, a lot of things are going to hinge on how the game is released and what my friends are going to play. I want to play around my friends and elevate their experience and make sure they have a good time and kind of relive the nostalgia through them. Because for me, MapleStory Classic, yeah, it'll be fun and it'll be interesting, but I think it'll be more fun when I see my friends who are new to the game have fun. And instead of having 3 assassins, right, that'll be super boring. I want to play something that my friends don't play. So if one of them plays a crossbowman, then maybe I'll play I don't know, a fighter. I want to play a fighter. I also think ice lightning mages are pretty interesting. I've been thinking about that a lot. One thing I really don't want to play is a cleric. I've never wanted to play a cleric. I'm not a huge cleric guy. I think it's a little too dull for me, the playstyle. But we have a lot of, you know, I think at least one of my buddies will play a cleric. Because some people really like to play the support role and be a healer in an MMO. You know, everybody, you always have someone that wants to heal, right? And if I introduce a class and say, hey, this is the one and only healer class, I'm sure some of my friends are going to want to play that. So either a crossbowman for me or a fighter. I think I want to try fighter, crusader. Most selfless answer I've heard. I mean, it's true though. Don't you agree? If you're playing with your buddies, right? Don't you want to be that guy? Don't you want to be that guy? Like, instead of, you know, isn't it more fun to kind of watch all your buddies enjoy the game and elevate their experience? Second-hand experience is a real thing, right? I've played this game so many times that being in Hennessy's training ground for me is the norm. Going to the tree dungeon in Elenia to kill slimes, or going to the anthill to kill the zombie mushrooms and thorny mushrooms. All of these are experiences that I've had throughout my life. But for my friends, it's gonna be their first. And it's gonna be the first time they play the game, so the more variety they see, the better. I think it's fun.